Hello friends, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another video here on my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be playing with some Pearblossom Press halo lights, and I know you've seen me do this before. I have a whole video group of, bunch of videos using different lights from Pearblossom Press, and so I'll have that linked down below. And I wanted to mention the halo light I'm working with has 4 lights, but the brand new ones have 6, so you get even more light. How cool is that? But let's talk about what we're using today. I've got the halo light. We also have the Heffy Doodle, a little shellfish stamps and dies. We have the sweet scalloped slimlines from Heffy Doodle, and we also have the stitched circle dies. All right, so let's jump right into it. I have a piece of mixed media paper by Trinity Stamps, and I've put this in my makeshift splatter box. I splattered that, or sprayed, some Distress Spray Stain in the color Scattered Straw. And then I also did a little bit of old paper, and now I'm going to hit that with my heat tool. The whole point of this is to do layers. I'm trying to make my background look like sand or a beach. And so in order to do that, I want to make sure I have a lot of that splattery goodness back there. So I brought in some brushed corduroy, and I also brought in some tarnished brass. And then I also brought in scattered straw again and just kind of splattered that all over. And I sprayed it some more with scattered straw. We're just having fun with this background. And it's eventually going to look like, kind of like a sandy background. And now that that's all dry, I'm bringing in the largest die from the Sweet Scalloped Slimline, and I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine. And then I am going to pair that up with a background that is just measuring 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches. So this is going to be a slimline. I'm going to show you all the colors up on the screen, and we're going to just go to town coloring all of our little images. I stamped these out just to save a little bit of time using my Memento Tuxedo black ink on some alcohol marker friendly cardstock by Heffy Doodle. And I wanted to try to make these look a little bit more realistic, but if you actually look up what a lobster looks like, they're more brown. Same thing with crabs. They turn more red, obviously, once you cook them. But since these are whimsical, we're going to have fun with it. And I did decide to do a very dark red instead of just using like a bright red. So I used, I think it was R37, R46, and then our darkest is R89. And I'll work backwards. I started, with the lightest color. And then once I got the dark down, I'll work backwards from there. Just trying to blend that color out. And I like the way he looks. He's not totally bright red, but he is not brown. So he's fun. Now we're going to move on to like our little hermit crab. I chose the R02 and the R22. And I'm going to leave his shell mostly white. So if you look up, different animals or critters like this, you're going to get a variation. And so obviously, use your discretion, have fun with it. These are whimsical little creatures, so you can do whatever you want. And then for his shell, I'm going to do some stippling, which basically means I'm taking my Copic marker and I'm pouncing it up and down, getting different size dots. I want small ones, I want larger ones, but the key here is to really keep your pen moving up and down vertically. Or perpendicular to your paper. So that way you get nice dots rather than like ovals. And then I'll just work backwards and kind of blend that out a little bit with our E97 and E99 was our darker color. And I don't show it, but I come in with some E93 just to add a little bit more as well. Now we're going to move on to our crab. I'm using the B's. So I've got B24, B26, and B29. And once again, I'm going to go in with my lightest color first, and then I'll bring in that B26. And you could leave it here, but I wanted a little more drama, so I'm bringing in that B29. And then you just have to blend it out a little bit. So it looks a little crazy right there, but once you start blending, it really comes along. And so I'll do that for all the little crabs. And just to let you know, I have no idea when I stamp these images out exactly how my scene is going to go. My whole key is just stamp a lot, and you can use them all over the card, outside, inside, you name it. So we colored our stars. We're going to color our hats all the same, and I wanted a little hat for each little guy. So we had BG45 and BG07, and then we'll blend that out. And then for our presents, 2 of them I'm going to do purple. We're going to do V15 and V17. And then the other 2 are going to be like a blue and a green, and I'll show you those, but these are very simple. It's just super simple Copic coloring that I'm doing, and I don't end up coloring the little sand piece with the candle on it. I actually stamped that again onto some leftover sand paper, not sandpaper, but the paper that I had to look like sand. And now I'm going to use the matching dies and line those up with some mint tape and run that through my Benny die cutting machine until I have all of those pieces cut out. And honestly, that's the part that took the longest time. And there's Max, very curious as to what we're doing because we're working with glue. And then he gets bored. Miles will come in later on too. But I'm just using a little bit of liquid glue and my pickup stick to put the little hats down on top of our crabs and lobster and our little hermit crabs. So that way everybody is ready to party. And like I said, honestly, the coloring and the cutting, that was the part of this card that just took the most time. And when you're scene building, that's usually what happens. So especially with little images. So there we have it. I'm going to go ahead and glue this panel down to the front, that white panel. The reason I'm doing this is because I want this to cover the full front of that Slimline. And so in order to do this, and the reason I'm doing this is because that halo light will fit perfectly behind there. So when you get them, you're going to see them like this. Don't be afraid to just kind of pop it out. You're not going to hurt it. It comes exactly with everything you need. It's all ready to go. The only thing you'd have to do is pull out that paper and your halo light is ready to be used. So all I'm doing here is trying to figure out exactly how I want to place that circle. If you want it to be centered, you're not going to be able to reach your battery, but I like to be able to reach my battery just in case the recipient really just loves this card so much that they want to play with that over and over and over again and they need to replace the battery. So I like to be able to make it so that you can reach the battery. So my circle is going to be a little bit off. It's going to be more on the left-hand side, which is fine with me. So all I did was pull in one of those stitched dies, circle dies, and I matched up the one that will work perfectly to cut out our center. And I'm just lining it up on there. I'm going to tack that down with some mint tape and run this through my die cutting machine a couple times because keep in mind this is cutting through 2 layers of cardstock. And then you're just going to want to be very careful pulling off your tape because I want to keep that centerpiece. I'm going to need that. I need that for my scene. What I'm doing here is tacking my piece down to the back, my halo light, and there's Miles. I'm tacking my halo light down with a little bit of mint tape just to keep it in place. I obviously don't want that permanent. And then I'm putting some like 1/4 inch score tape or just tape that you have on the back of that one piece because that's where it's going to stick. And now I have to get my base ready, which measures 7 inches by 8.5 inches and scored at 3.5 inches because our halo light is going to be attached to our base. So I've got to do that. And then I'm going to peel off that release paper, and I am going to use a little bit of liquid glue on the rounded part, our circle, just to give it a little bit more. And then now I'm going to line that up on the front of our card very carefully so it doesn't fall off and just kind of get placed. And then once you push it down, it's going to be down. Then you can peel out that mint tape. But that mint tape was used just to kind of hold it in place. All right, let's stamp out some sentiments. We're going to use the Pearblossom Press Sentiment cardstock. This stuff is fabulous. Fabulous. If you like black cardstock and you want to emboss your sentiment, this stuff is amazing. It's so super smooth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of that and just make sure my stamp is nice and clean because I'd used it earlier and didn't clean it the best. I'm going to use a magic powder bag over my sentiment stock, ink up part of my sentiment with some juicy embossing ink because I only want part of it. I want Go Cray Cray, and I want that 2 times, and then I want the whole sentiment once. So go cray cray, it's your birthday. And then I'll cover that with my white embossing powder, but I'm telling you, that embossing powder doesn't stick where it's not supposed to. And this stuff is so black. It's wonderful. It is wonderful for sentiments. I just need to pull it out more often because I love it. It's just great. So now I'm going to cut down my sentiments using my guillotine trimmer. And when I have those all ready to go and I have an idea of where I want to place them, I'm going to glue them down. You could use foam tape, but this is going to already be a little bit bulky. So that's why I'm not using foam tape. But don't you love it? Go cray cray, go cray cray, go cray cray. It's your birthday. That's so fun. And then you can just build your little scene all around that, which is what I'm going to do. Just kind of placing little characters wherever I want them, where I think they're going to look good. Some stars up here. This little crab, he's super excited. And you'll see the little like sand cake castle that I stamped. I stamped that onto the excess of our background paper, and I think that looks way better. And then I'm just placing more pieces, and then I'll trim off the excess from that sentiment strip. And then we'll be ready to take the rest of our stuff and put it on the inside of the card, which is why I love to stamp out so many images. So on the inside it says, "Go on, be a little shellfish." And then we can take what's left and we could put all of those little pieces on the inside. And so then we have scenes on the outside and the inside. I need to now discover where I'm going to put the push, which comes from our Heffy Doodle Interactively Yours. So I want to stamp that before I actually place down my panel on the front of my card. So I'm going to ink up the push here, find out exactly where I need to stamp that, pull that off to the side, and then I can stamp that. And I'm also going to stamp "Pull Me" on this little piece of cardstock because we're going to use this to make sure that the battery isn't always connected. And yes, there's Miles again. Yep, he's my buddy. All right, now we need to put foam tape, and you can use regular foam tape when you're using these halo lights, but you're definitely going to want to double that up if you use regular foam tape. If you have this stuff, which is the Heffy Doodle 3mm deep foam tape, which comes in 12mm and 5mm, which I am using the 12mm right now. I'm going to pull in that 5mm again. I'm just not giving him attention. That's really what it comes down to. But this stuff is great because it's already the perfect thickness for these halo lights and also for your shakers. So this stuff is just good to have on hand. And then once I've got that pretty well covered, because I don't want it, sagging in any spots, I can peel off that release paper, and then we can put our panel down on top of that. I'm just going to line that up the best I can and then push it down, because once it's down, that baby's down. And we have one little lobster. He's going to go in the center there. So let's glue him on the inside. I thought about using foam tape, but I just decided we'll just glue him on the inside. That's fine. Glue him down, and then there you have it. I love this little scene. And then the last little bit, I'm just going to cut down that little panel paper that came with this so that I can fit that right in. And it says "Pull Me," and I'm going to put that in between the battery and the mechanism so that way it's not always lit up. But there you have it. So if you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. I have a blog post over on the Pearblossom Press blog, so I'll have that linked down below. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I will see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.